We're going to start with President Biden in South Carolina yesterday, highlighting a new manufacturing project he says was made possible by the infrastructure bill.
Our plan is working, and one of the things I'm proudest of is working everywhere, not just in the coast and big cities like previous recoveries. This time, investment is working in factories being built and jobs being created, happening in rural America, the heartland, all across America. In communities that have been left out and hollowed out. This is what it looks like across the country. Under my predecessor, Infrastructure Week became a punchline. Every month. Anyway, I won't get into it. On my watch, we're making infrastructure a decade headline. A decade. My view is, wherever the need is most, that's the place we should be helping. And that's what we're doing. Because the way I look at it, the progress we're making is good for all Americans, all of America. Let me close with this. I'm not here to declare victory on the economy. I'm here to say we have a plan that's turning things around quickly, but we have a lot more work to do.
So, Doris, a concerted effort here by President Biden to use the bully pulpit, not just as he turns toward a presidential campaign, but in his role as president itself, not as a candidate, to say, wait a minute, guys. Look at everything we've done in the past couple of years in terms of the economy, that unemployment is at historic lows, inflation is ticking down. That's the case they're making out there right now. And yet you look at polling and Americans are still uneasy about the economy. They actually don't think, according to polls, that President Biden has done a good job of improving their lives through the economy. So how have presidents in the past and how does this president get the message out when they feel like, actually, we've done a whole lot in these first couple of years?
Well, you can't go against what people feel in their daily lives. And certainly jobs are doing well, but they still have a hard time getting an apartment maybe, or inflation is still hurting them. And it's hard to just tell them you're feeling good. But I do have a feeling about the infrastructure. It's one of the things FDR did so brilliantly during the New Deal. He got people to work in really good jobs. They built LaGuardia Airport. They built the Lincoln Tunnel. They did all sorts of dams and stuff. And that's what's beginning to happen now. It's just going to take a little longer before people feel it in their daily lives. Once they do, that connection is made. But it's hard for a person to tell you, you should be feeling better. And if you're not feeling better yet, then they have to come around to a real feeling.
So, Rev, to that point, I mean, any president running for re-election is going to be judged first and foremost on their handling of the economy. We've seen that throughout American history. The White House feels good about it. They keep pointing to numbers that say, look, jobs are up. This is good. Inflation has cooled, though still higher than we want it to be. They're leaning in. They even are taking Bidenomics, right? They're putting his name on it. And this is a big part of it, these kind of jobs right here, and what we heard from him yesterday. But to Doris's point, polls suggest that Americans still don't feel great about it. And there's growing fears among Democrats about voters not being that enthusiastic about President Biden next time around. Do you think this could be an argument that helps?
The argument that helps in this case is that it appears today his opponent will be Donald Trump. So even if I'm saying, well, I don't feel it yet, if I'm comparing somebody that has done things that will get me to that feeling against someone that did nothing that would make me feel that, I'm going to go with the guy that I may not have the enthusiasm yet, but he has done some concrete things. At the end of the day, you're going to have to vote for somebody. Do you vote for the guy that gave you bombast, that told you to take bleach during COVID, that didn't do anything but stack the Supreme Court and federal courts with people that took women's right to choose, killed affirmative action, etc.? Or do you vote for the guy that did the infrastructure bill and inflation reduction bill? So it may be a question today of enthusiasm, but it's going to come down to choice. The challenge from the Democrats is how you turn that better choice into enthusiasm so you get the turnout.
So, Jen, as you talk to people around the White House, I'm sure you hear the same things I do. They think they're running against Donald Trump unless there's some political act of nature. Even with all these indictments that are coming, things get more difficult for him, perhaps, but they believe he's the nominee. So with that in mind, with the state of the economy in mind, with everything that's happened at the Supreme Court, not just in the last 2 weeks, but in the last year or so, what is your platform? Let's say you're helping to run, as you have other presidential campaigns, this re-election effort for Joe Biden. What are you running on as you seek to return to the White House?
the plan is working, you know, and you heard, like, I think the president uses exact words when he was in South Carolina yesterday. He said, you may not be feeling, I'm not saying that the economy is great everywhere, but the point is the plan is working. Like, we are getting results. And I think you make that argument in terms of the economy. And by the way, I have to say, I think they're doing a good job. It is really hard to break through with good news from the White House. People don't, that is not the kind of news that normally gets covered. But they're doing this tour with him and with cabinet in a smart way to focus on infrastructure, chips, et cetera, by going to red states, going to battleground districts, things that they layer a political element into the travel, and it is breaking through. And so, so the plan is working with the economy, but then also normalcy, right? You're going to be running against Trump, which they see as a chaos candidate, and that we see democracy was upheld, the election held. Congress is starting, you know, he got a lot done in Congress. It was operating in a bipartisan manner, even more so than it has in probably 2 decades. So both in terms of making government work, but then also just the economy, I think that is, you know, stick with the plan, finish the job, right? That's how, when he announced the re-election campaign, that was the message that they used.
Doris, I mentioned those Supreme Court decisions last week. We haven't spoken to you since then. I'm curious about your reaction as you look at affirmative action, as you look at President Biden's effort to forgive student loan debt, as you look at religious rights in one case, LGBTQ rights, and then going back a year ago, of course, to abortion rights. What does it all amount to for you as you look through these decisions?
Well, you know, it was interesting. You had a poll yesterday that you were talking to with John Della Volpe about the Gen Z people, and they rightly feel they're under attack in terms of abortion rights, student loans, the climate change, gun safety. And yet the sad thing is that many of them are feeling now they can't change the system because the Supreme Court has come out with all these decisions, and it seems that there's nothing they can do about it. But that's not true. I mean, they can fight for that. If you change the Congress, you might get a codified Roe. If you change state legislatures, you could do away with the abortion bans. They've got to believe again that activism, which they were so important in 2018 midterms, in 2020 election, in 22 midterms, the young people really led the way. And just think about, I'd love to talk to the Rev about this. I mean, young people were so absolutely instrumental in the civil rights movement in the 1960s. What if they had given up after they'd been fighting for years, the Freedom Riders, the sit-in people, you know, the marchings, the demonstrators? They were fighting a system, and they finally broke into it, and they changed that system. And the Civil Rights Act was passed. Selma demonstrations put the Voting Rights Act on the book, and that even allowed Lyndon Johnson to say the fire of the conscience has been raised, and now I'm going to go for the next step of the civil rights movement, affirmative action. And when I look back at 1965, the whole country wasn't just wanting to do something for black people. They wanted to do it for the promise of America. They felt we'd be a better country by having rights expanded for all. And that's why Lyndon Johnson was able to say that the beginning of affirmative action, you can't take a person to the beginning of a starting line and expect them, if they've been hobbled by chains, to compete and think you're being really fair. And he just didn't mean chains of slavery. He meant the chains of discrimination, Jim Crow, redlining. And the majority of the country went with that. He said men and women have a different range of abilities, the same range of abilities, really, but it depends on whether it's stunted or stretched by the neighborhood they live in, the family they grow up in, the richness or the poverty of their surroundings. We've got to do something to equalize that. That was a time when you felt great about being part. I'm so glad to have grown up in the 60s, to be at that Civil Rights March in 63. It was the public highlight of my life to be with 250,000 other people were there, too, but I was there. So I'd love to hear what the Rev thinks about this, too, because I think we've got to instill that spirit in young people. The system can be changed. It's been changed in the past. History shows that, and they got to still fight for it. They got to fight.
No, I think Doris is exactly right, because that generation of young people, you have to remember the Freedom Riders and others, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. These were young people in their late teens and 20s. I was about 10 years behind them. I grew up feeling I could do something because they were young and they did it. And Julian Bond, John Lewis, Jesse Jackson, these were the students that were the real front line of the movement that changed America and that led to, as she rightfully says, the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Civil Rights Act. Dr. King never made it to 40 years old, and he was considered the old guard. He was killed at 39. So was Medgar Evers. So was Malcolm X. So those of us that came behind that young guard felt I was a teenager, 13, when I became youth director of New York Operation Breadbasket. I think what we have to do for young people today is say, yes, it does look bleak. Affirmative action killed, women's right to choose, all of this. And it's bleak because we didn't do what we should have done in terms of voting. How did the Supreme Court get stacked? By Donald Trump getting elected and by not enough of us standing and making sure he was blocked in 16. So the way to do it is to show the method is that we don't give up, we give more. And that's what they did in the 60s. That's what was done in the 80s when we were able to re-energize a movement. That's what has happened with the George Floyd movement. But you can't have a 2-year run. This is a marathon run. And I think that a lot of young people that got that hope a couple of years ago with George Floyd needs to understand when you collapse before you get to the finish line, no matter how well you ran, the finish line is what you have to go across. And Donald Trump was able to go across that finish line and put a third of the Supreme Court there. You've got to take that back. And you've got to put in them the belief they can take that back, because that's how this country works.